My parents picked me up from the airport. We had like an hour and a half drive to get from the airport to my house because I lived in the middle of nowhere. So we're driving from Syracuse, New York. We're on our way. We got to about 10 minutes from home. And I was like, you know what? I can't wait to see Buffy, who was our Cocker Spaniel that I loved. I can't wait to get home and see Buffy. She's going to be so excited to see me when I come in the door. My mom, we have something to tell you. Buffy's actually dead. And I'm like, I freaked out because I'm like, what? Did you think I wouldn't notice? Like, you're going to wait till now, 10 minutes from home, and only because I brought it up. Right? Like, they weren't going to bring it up. And it was that like, oh, well, we shouldn't say something that might be sad to him. At least that's what I'm assuming it was. Because I can't think of any other reason that they would have done that. And I got pissed. I was like, why'd you have to put her down? Well, she was pooping all over the house. It's like, well, if dad gets diarrhea, are you going to just go put him down too? Like, that's it? Just pooping around the house, and you're like, you know what, Ted, you're out of here.
And Buffy was your dog?
Yes.
Your baby?
Yep. Get home and she gone.
Welcome to Being Human. Today we'll be talking about feelings. If you have feelings that you repress, or feelings that you act out, or feelings that you try to cover up with something you think is more popular, well, this episode is for you. We'll be talking with Erin and Amanda Emery.
You know, we jump so quick to trying to fix or avoid feelings. We label them strongly as bad and good, right? And then it's like, oh, I feel really good today, or whatever it may be, for X, Y, and Z. If we go back to the food podcast, I used to do that where it's like, oh, I ate really good today and I worked out today, so I feel really good, and you label it as positive. But then the next day when it's like, oh, well, I didn't eat as good and I'm labeling my food as bad, now I feel bad. Again, they're like everything else, it's not going to last. It comes and goes.
Ebb and flow.
Mm-hmm. No, you just get so attached, I think, to our feelings.
That's it. It's the attachment to the feelings.
Yeah.
It gets so compounded. We have a feeling about a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
It's also, if you could just take a moment to kind of step back and laugh about it a little bit and not take them so seriously, it makes it so much, I guess, easier, maybe.
It's so much more human.
Yeah.
Really, and humane to be mellow with our emotions. It's really interesting because we all feel them and we all feel the exact same emotions. But when they arise within us, we act as if it's an alien taking over.
That's so funny. Well, it seems like we try and make ourselves non-human. That's kind of what we're doing.
It's all equal. We don't play favorites with our emotions.
Yeah.
Warmly friendly with everything that arises.
We put these people who look really like good or seem really happy, right, on the outside, or really positive, and we elevate them and put them on a pedestal, and it's like, well, I want to be like that. And so then if you do have what you would label as a negative feeling, then I feel like we're so, at least for myself, I'm so hard on myself.
Well, compare inner human experience with what somebody else looks like on the outside. It's a lie. And that just sets us on that course for grasping the positive and avoiding what we perceive as negative.
Like, it's easier to feel that like dichotomy of like, I'm happy and empty. Then you're having to lie to yourself that, well, everything looks great, and so I should be happy because all the stuff around me is like what happiness should be, or how it would appear on Instagram if I were to post all my stuff. Like, I have this great life. I'm not feeling necessarily happy at my deepest. And so there's like that like lie to yourself in the midst of the happiness where you are like having a feeling about your feeling about your feeling.
Yes, when the materialistic happiness crashes,
Mhm.
Totally.
you can actually start coming into greater truth. You start to realize that you're faking the whole thing. It's a whole masquerade that you're in.
Mhm.
And you can use this as a wake-up call. You know this from when you were an athlete.
Yeah, totally.
Being an athlete and winning everything, essentially. And in those moments, be wanting to celebrate that, but then being told that there's something wrong about celebrating yourself in that way.
It's not Christian to be happy in that way. It's prideful.
Well, because you're supposed to be good. Just goes back to judging your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's good and bad.
Basically, emotions are not a reliable reference point. They come and they go, they ebb and they flow, like the ocean. We can't rely on our emotions to determine the direction.
Right.
We listen instead to a much deeper level of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
In the sutra, it says to not become happy because of praise and not become unhappy because of blame.
Right? It's like, so we think that we're happy and it's shallow because our definition of it is shallow.
Right.
Like we don't
Yes.
actually even understand maybe what like happiness even is.
Right.
Like it's like you said, like when you went, it's like, well, if I have XYZ, like if I've got a nice house and a carload of children and a good husband, then now I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like shallow, right? It's like not it. And like for everyone's got their own version of that. Like
Yes.
you definitely have the dichotomy then of like, I've got a van full of children. It's like you are going to sit in that van and cry because you hate it at some point.
What has never worked for me, and I don't know if it works for anybody, and that's self-justification. Justifying myself with a story about myself instead of being with whatever arises and accepting whatever arises exactly as it is. And that means all kinds of emotions, just accepting them as they are without doing anything about them.
Totally.
Yeah.
For example, if something arises within that is a flavor of sadness or an energetic quality that's dark,
Yeah.
I don't then justify that feeling by telling a story that's opposite of it or
Mhm.
repressing it. I mean, none of these things work. It will eventually become insanity.
Yeah, that self-talk bit can be like, I mean, that can cause like anxiety attacks and stuff. It's like I've had that happen where it's like you just feel your heart rate go up and you get lightheaded and like you're like physically and bodily can be like taken by that justification because it's just so not true.
For me, when I first started with you, I remember I would feel like this anxiety come on and it would overtake me sometimes to where it was like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out,
Mhm.
I'm because it was this feeling of this feeling is wrong. And so I'm going to try and shove it away so hard. But then it's like, well, it's not going away. It's not going away. And feeling out of control because I couldn't shove it away. And then as soon as I remember in a session, you told me to, or, next time that happens, to see it, know that that feeling is okay and that I don't need to shove it away. The anxiety even is okay. Accept the anxiety in the moment, knowing that it will pass. And I had these times where that happened. And the more and more that I did that, it just went away.
It's not so scary.
Right. And the power that we give it when we just, compound it with just go away. Like,
Yeah.
this is bad.
Any of those emotions though, like it's
Yeah.
just not like you do that with any emotion and it's like you start to really see the emotion for what it is.
Mhm.
Fleeting.
All of it. You can experience it all in a moment. It can be really beautiful. It can be scary. It can be freeing.
You're describing what it is to open your heart, to allow everything to be exactly as it is,
Yeah.
and to move deeper than that, to move from a deeper level of you, your beingness.
Rooting to like the trueness of your being.
Yes.
And when I think of like the rudeness, I think of myself like coming in and first coming to see you and being at group and being like a little like lily pad or something, or like some type of like little seed, just like woo, and like I'm like flying around and like I'm manic. It's like I'm really happy and then I'm really sad, and like, and then you have that like little root that starts to like find its way down, and like once it attaches, like it's there and you know you're attached, like it's like, oh, I see that more trueness, and like you're attached to it, but the root is so like thin still that like on top you're still getting moved around, but you're not getting moved around like the whole world of an ocean. Like
Yes.
you're still staying in kind of the same place, but on top you're floating. And then like as that grows and that like your understanding of the trueness of who you are and what your being is, and that root gets more substantial, you start being
Yes.
affected less by those emotions and moving around less on the surface. You almost don't look like you're moved at all by them. And they're coming and they're moving and you are just there.
If you have any questions or comments about this episode or any episode, email us at beinghumantalk@gmail.com.